All right. Hey, this is Transparency and Merit. I am Brian. I'm with Joe. This
Yes,
is.
indeed. We are lost at sea, Brian.
Can we turn that off, please? It sounds like. All right. Hey, this is Transparency and Merit. I am Brian. Sorry about that. So can we turn off the sound because it sounds like it sounds like bad audio actually than it does. So he was trying to play the sea stuff, but this is my second day of fasting. Come on, Joe.
I'm sorry. We are lost at sea, Brian. It's a serious situation. Okay, there we go.
All right, I guess we are. I guess we are lost at sea, man. So this is my second day of fasting, and hunger pains come and go. Hopefully, I can. I haven't had a haircut in a while, man. It's kind of difficult, you know. Like I gotta kind of stroll my hair back and stuff. So, but it's the hunger pains have been there just a little bit, and then they kind of dissipate. So, I'm staying. I'm trying to stay strong on that. I'm more happy about my fasting than I am. You and I both are for the world. You and I may have different reasons. I see America coming apart at the seams here, as I've never like. I mean, and for me, I don't want to start talking too loud, but for me, have been around the anti-racist left for over, I've known of them for over 30 years. And they've gotten worse. They've gotten actually more powerful. I mean, Black Lives Matter has been given almost unquestioned authority by the establishment. The establishment is completely behind this organization, and in some ways, maybe even behind Antifa and the violence that is happening. And this is a person I want to say, I guess, is the typical anti-racist leftist that I have seen. And like, she probably won't even look at this video. I'm kind of putting out an olive branch. I've been upset by this person. I'm more upset by the left that gives people like this almost right now unquestionable power, and people that I think should know better. And that's not the case. That's not what's going on. So anyway, this is her video, and me and her have gone back and forth over time on Twitter, but this video kind of explains kind of who exactly she is.
Okay, and I just want to drop a link really quickly here. Okay, so yeah, this is Hungry Man Day 2. We do have Brian now in your second day of fasting, and you had to wear a mask today at some point, and I saw you really struggling. To me, it was not too much unlike George Floyd. You were gasping and saying, "I can't breathe."
See, here's the deal. This is one of the things I don't want to like even get into joking about, like, just because I want to. Once you see the video, you'll kind of understand. But no, I mean, it was difficult to breathe in that mask, by the way.
That's right. That's right.
I don't want to, look.
I'm not joking. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, okay.
I felt like I had a knee to my neck. All right, let's play this. Courtney, what kind of exchanges have you had with this broad?
You know what? It's been just, she doesn't want to give an inch, and I'll get into.
I'm gonna need you to get your shit together. this trying to get people arrested or get people killed because you don't like Black people and you're bored. It's really obnoxious. And I get that your husbands or your boyfriends are out cosplaying Call of Duty right now because they really want to get a haircut, but you need to stay the heck home, okay? I'm not going to call you a Karen, but I am going to call you Mayella Ewell. And if you don't know that reference, pick up a book. Stop what you're doing. Stop being obnoxious. Stop trying to get people killed, okay? All you're doing is proving you're a fucking cunt. Fellow white ladies, I'm going to need you to get your shit together.
Okay.
So she's talking about white ladies. Now, I had to actually look up Mayella Ewell. She is from the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Can you, I don't know if you want to Google her. It's Myella and then Ewell. And that's from the book To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Let me. Here we go.
I don't know if you want to. I don't want to play a video of her. I'd rather just show a picture of her, of who she is. And we're waiting. But those of you who don't know, Mayella Ewell was the person who was accusing Tom Robinson.
Oh, I remember. Okay. Yeah. Of
She was
course.
accusing Tom Robinson of rape. It's a very vindictive statement that's saying, I guess she's kind of saying that, like a lot of these whites are calling the police on Black people, and they just have nothing better to do, and they're just a bunch of drama queens. The movie To Kill a Mockingbird, the film, Atticus Finch stands up against the lynch mob. He stands up to mobocracy. But, today, it's the anti-racist left that is the mobocracy. Now, the book, getting loud here, the book, To Kill a Mockingbird, takes place in 1936. Was it Monrovia, Alabama? So, again, this is not 1936 Monrovia, Alabama. And that whites are really callous and malevolent. And I've been getting into these kind of arguments with people about this whole Karen kind of thing. And, there's this suspected racism that's involved. So I'm kind of going to do this off the cuff, but I have a few questions for Courtney. Question 1. Can anyone be racist? Or is that just a stigmatization only for whites? Are only whites absolved of moral responsibility? Question 2. These Karens that you have accused, I'm going to turn off my Discord. These Karens that you have accused of racism and that society has accused of racism. Is there any kind of court of public opinion that they can go to, that they can maybe state their case? Wouldn't that kind of be a good idea? Because it's kind of the rule of the mob. Shouldn't there be I don't know, where they can, have a defense? Because when you cancel someone, you economically kind of blacklist them and really hurt them. And a couple of them, I believe, have. And if you believe they're committing murder, let's have that case out. Question 3. Do you think that there is any form of selective outrage, not only in America, but throughout the West, about certain things and events that happen? I mean, I know that they were protesting George Floyd just about all over the world, but I want to get into particularly in London. And, you know, they had London, England. They had a big protest there. Not much said, by the way, or much less said, and hardly any protests due to the Muslim grooming gangs. I wonder if you've ever read about that. You want to open up a book about Muslim grooming gangs. So I kind of open up an olive branch to you. Like I said, I've known you anti-racist, leftist. I've known you for a while. Many of you have gotten worse over the years, and you may be the exception to that rule. You may be an outlier, but on average, you don't discuss. You make demands. But I'm putting that olive branch out towards you. Like I said, right now, you hold the cards. You are the establishment. You hold the power. That's just the truth. And we can talk about a whole range of subjects. And I got to follow this myself. You can't be objective and self-righteous. Those two things don't go hand in hand. I mean, you really think of yourself kind of like Atticus Finch? You think you're as objective as he is? Really believe that? People are entitled to a fair hearing, in my opinion, regardless of whether it is in an actual courtroom and also within the courtroom of public opinion. That is a human right. If you're going to hurt someone, I believe they have the right to be heard, and they have the right to be defended, not just lectured and punished. I would go into South Africa, but I'm not going to go into it. So you mentioned pick up a book. And I actually, you know what? I mean, I've seen the movie and I've read the book various times of To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, I remember the movie more than I remember the book. And I looked at the book recently on audio just to kind of skim through it. And it's an interesting timepiece. Gonna drink a little bit of water here, get my head kind of. I wonder, I wonder even if they want to have a discussion when you hold the power and the reins, and like, you don't necessarily hold the reins of power, but you know to a degree that social media, the mainstream media, holds things to you. And I was going to say, I have some books that maybe you should pick up and read. One, Black Rednecks, White Liberals by Thomas Sowell. Two, White Girl Bleed a Lot by Colin Flaherty. And maybe what would be a third? I would say Into the Cannibal's Pot, but that's pretty, I mean, that book's pretty grisly. But those two books, and White Girl Bleed a Lot's a pretty grisly detail of black on white mob violence. By the way, I want to mention that Colin Flaherty, I believe it's June 22nd, is having, and I don't know if it's going to be an open rally or a protest about violence and about black violence in general, because of course, Black Lives Matter, they've had their protest, and they say it's been documented. And all the people who are fans of Colin Flaherty want an open and honest debate on what exactly is going on, who ends whose life, where is it dangerous, and isn't a discussion about justice? I mean, isn't if you want justice, isn't there to be a discussion? Or do we all just have to bend the knee? I wonder if anything that someone on the opposition or what I consider to be the resistance side has a right to be heard as a human being with inalienable rights, with First Amendment rights. Platforms are taken away to those who speak out against the anti-racist left, and I don't call it, I don't call it just anti-racist. I call it the anti-racist left. And people are thinking, well, racism exists, white racism exists, or racism in general exists. Well, yeah, so does murder and rape. Bad things exist within the human condition. And then Wayne White just said, I can answer your question about racism on both sides, but it dates back to the late 1970s. And I also wanted to mention, I've seen, I grew up watching, and I would go into my father. He was in the film industry. When he returned to the States after being stationed overseas in the Air Force, he went into the film industry in the early 1970s and was striving to do things even before his death, 2017, a couple of years after my mother was deceased as well, but that they both died. Anyway, I don't know necessarily where our country's going. It looks to be a scary place. It looks to be a lot of people are bending and taking the knee. Corporations and other organizations are doing so. And I don't know how good of an idea that is. I don't know if that's the best resolve for something to take. And there are so many variables out there that human beings should look at. Whether you're talking about the statistics of murder and death by cop, the statistic and murder and death by criminal. Like I said, to me, justice in a just society is a discussion. When this nation was formed and the laws were formed, it was a discussion. There was debate about what was the best course of action. And I don't see that happening. I see one side wanting to talk and the other side wanting to shut down. And they're not even given any kind of court, there's no court of public opinion. It's just completely shut you down. Joe, do you have anything to add about this whole situation?
Well,
I do.
But I keep hearing
my voice.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna,
let me put my, if I put myself on mute?
Yeah, but you know what? I just see things from a totally different perspective, and it all points to an aspect of division that won't go away. It persists, and it's only there, in my view, if you pay attention to the media that's out there. And I'm very harsh on media, and I'm very harsh on people who take the media and use that as a weapon against other people. So there's a lot of division. There's a lot of factors and a lot of factions of division that are incredibly damaging as far as finding resolution and getting to a place of true peace. I see that we don't have a common enemy. We just know that America is we could be looking at just the fall of every major system that people had come to rely on in a lot of ways.
By the way, Wayne is asking to call in. Is that a possibility? Get the number out there, Joe?
Yeah, man. There's our number. Feel free to give us a call. Can bring you right in. I don't have your number, Mr. White. Off. It's probably in my Skype somewhere, but if you call us now, no problem. So yeah, we see America going into a place. Another area I think we disagree on is that you find it as a dark and maybe a potentially sinister place, and I find right now that we are in a very hopeful place, and a place that I can't help but think that we are on a trajectory in the right direction. All right, is this Mr. White?
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Is this Ray's Pizza?
It is. It is. What would you like on your Ray's Pizza?
Can I mention? I just want to mention something. I believe a lot of this has to do, for me, this whole anti-racist left. People have identified their ego with that. I mean, they believe they're right, and their ego is taken over, and they don't want to look and examine the facts as fully as they can. I believe it's more of an ego thing than anything else. So,
and from my perspective, and Mr. White, I'm sorry to cut you off. From my perspective, ego is merely a tool that can propel a society, a nation, a world to a better place. And if it wasn't as badly abused as it has been, and we've been burned so many times by egomaniacs, ego-driven freaks that have really put a bad taste in our mouth, and we're almost not willing to give another freak a chance. But I dare say that that ego can be harnessed and used in the right way. What's up, Mr. White?
Can I just respond to that? Can I just?
No, let Mr. White. Mr. White.
No. I want to respond to your point.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to respond to the point. I believe that ego that it is ego that is driving these. It's a false sense of ego, and it's ego that is when you lose your it's ego that is kind of losing your objectivity. That is what I see. That the ego is you can't. It's a myopic sort of ego. I am so right, and it's a religion, and it's a cult. This person has a video of Trump people singing. I'm no Trump sycophant, but she is anti-racism is a religion and a cult, and they become myopic and they believe that their way is the only way, and it's a faith and a religion. Okay, I'll go ahead, White. I'll let you speak.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to call in and illustrate something. When I first tuned in, one of your first questions was asking about racism on both sides. And it struck a nerve with me because back in the late 70s, I joined an all-black band. I was the only white person in the band. And this is not negative, what I'm going to talk about here. This is just to illustrate that racism is just, a lot of times it's just normal because of the people we know, the way we all live differently, and similarly culturally. Now, all these people I'm talking about, they're all musicians. They're all musicians, actors, all creative people, which in my life, and I'm pushing almost 70 years old, it's a very different group of people and atmosphere than just regular on the streets to people we know in our normal lives. Much more forgiving, much more accepting of everyone. Now, first of all, I got the call to join this band from a friend of mine, a Puerto Rican guy. He hung out with Run DMC. And he called me, he says, I'm in the studio right now. And his exact words were, there's a group next door, they need a white guitar player. Now, that didn't mean they needed a Caucasian. That meant they didn't need a black guitar player, a funky guy. They needed someone that sounded more like Jeff Beck or something. So I went down there and I got in the band. And the first thing racially that happened, which was really weird, because I became friends with the bass player. Now everyone was black with me. And he really had a really beautiful girlfriend, hot, really nice looking girl. And after a few rehearsals and stuff, she stopped showing up, and I said, "What happened?" And he said, "I had to cut her loose, because she's so racist." I'm thinking, what? Because she was this gorgeous white woman, and I said, "Well, I don't get it." And he said, "Well, that's the thing. She looks white, but she's really black, and she really hates white guys, white people." Especially because they're always hitting on her because they think she's white. Okay. So that was the first thing. So that was the first thing that, happened.
Right.
But then later, we did a really big show. It was like 1976. I think it was 76, Year of the Child, with Biafra and all that stuff at Columbia University. And everyone went home for the weekend before the show, and they all came back. Half the people were in Baltimore and other places. And we did the show, and we were horrible. We were terrible. We already had, we didn't sign, but we already had promises for a record contract and everything. And we were really horrible. And, so after we did our set, we went backstage, and our manager, who was a woman, Olive Pointer. She was the sister of Noel Pointer, the jazz violinist. And she laid into everybody. And here's where, again, it was like a racist thing, but it was just the way it was. She looked at everyone, and then she looked at me and then the other guys and said, I would have thought it would have been Wayne. Meaning, I'm not like them. I'm the odd white guy in this group.
Right.
And she said, but it's you guys. She said, and I never would have believed it, but you can go home, White, because you don't need this. She was, because she, I guess, inherently or inwardly, she figured I was going to be the one that fucked up. You know, like, and this is all because even back then, and we were all musicians and stuff, and artists, we haven't been exposed to each other enough. You know, that was a lesson for her. That, wow, you know, all white guys are not, you know, they're not, you know, they're okay, I guess.
Nice.
You know, because the first person I met, this was at a studio that was owned by, I don't know the woman's name, but she was the lead actress in that stage Broadway show, The Wiz, the Black Annie show.
Diana Ross.
Yeah. And so, you know, and I went in there, and like I said, I was the only white guy. The first person that came up was Wayne Cobham, the brother of Billy Cobham, the drummer. He said, hey, you know, we both got the same name. And I said, oh, yeah, that's cool, you know. He said, did you ever hear of Jeff Beck? And I was like, yeah, you know, like, and I realized how far apart our cultures were. You know, it's like, that's like me walking up to a black, how they knew less about white people and culture than I knew about black culture and music. Because him coming up to me and saying, did you ever hear of Jeff Beck? That's like me coming up to them and saying, did you ever hear of James Brown? Which would be totally weird. That's it. That's the whole story.
Right on.
It exists.
Yeah.
Even in non-negative.
I wanted to mention about black girls that are passing and like who are mixed and who are passing. A lot of times they can go like the other way and be very extremist. And they're also like on average today, and I'm not talking about back then. I mean, if you talk to older black militants, they're more real. But the ones today are far more fake. I mean, Malcolm X was a master stoic. Those that follow him, not so much. And I've often come across some of these some of these, like, you know, really hardcore they're not anti-racist, they're just anti-white and hate white folks. These black women who practically pass for white. And I've had a few, like, where I've been on the debate and like it got ugly, and I learned like right away, you know, from those individuals, you got to be kind of stoic and like, hey, don't buy anything that they say, and, you know, just don't ever take anything that they say personally. And, you know, at first I would kind of have an olive branch, but that's fake. I don't, you know, I mean, like, I make my statements plain. I mean, there's an olive branch there, but I don't bend the knee or bend my will to them. I'm real. I come up with the views that I have, the statistics that I have, and I do have real concerns. Look, this isn't something for me. Some of the stuff that I found to be true and real, I mean, I don't want it to be. There's some really unpleasant stuff out there that's nasty, vindictive, and cruel. And the left wants to wash that under the rug. Because in my eyes, their ego, it hurts their ego. And look, I remember the late 80s, you know, when I would go around college campuses. And the first time I was at a college campus was in 84. I was at UCLA, and they were protesting apartheid. And then I was in 89. They were protesting and talking about divestment. We had Senate and congressional hearings about South Africa. Joe Biden was in a couple of them. grilling some of these the leaders of South Africa. You think we have any meetings today? There's nothing said about South Africa. As a matter of fact, they call it a white supremacist dog whistle. Kind of ended real quick. No questions. And I'm told to open up a book. I guarantee you, Courtney doesn't want to open up a book or open up the can of worms about, South Africa or Zimbabwe or any of those places where the anti-racist left has had their way. And I honestly see America kind of going in that direction. I could be wrong on that, but, to me, it's the same blaming white people of European descent. And I'm seeing this in Europe as well. It's a vindictive form of hate that anybody who's intelligent would not want to live under. I mean, anyone who blames you for everything and will use violence in order to, if something goes wrong with somebody else, they'll get violent on you as you are, and you become the symbol of their rage. It's not something an intelligent, smart person wants to live under. And I love the big city. I loved going to Westwood. I loved going to Hollywood, but I don't want to go into any place where, number one, I'm going to feel unsafe, and number two, where I'm not allowed to speak, where I have to basically curb my speech. And that's what the left does today. And it's gotten worse over the years. I don't like any, when I was younger, I didn't like it. Like Howard Stern would get protested, and other radio stations would get protested by the Christian right. And I'm still somewhat of a moderate. I didn't like that. And they would try to, do stuff to his sponsors and stuff like that. I didn't like that. And I don't like it when the left, the anti-racist left, the fanatical anti-racist left, does the same thing. And that's what I'm seeing nowadays. I'm seeing a lot of censorship in the arts, and in the newsroom, on social media. What are you allowed to say? What are you allowed not to say in this country? And in the West, in the Anglosphere.
Let me say something. Do you really feel you are being censored?
Yes.
Or just that, a particular part of society disagrees with you?
We've had 4 or 5 shows that have been censored.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's hit us directly, no doubt.
Here's something that's interesting to me, maybe to you, I don't know. But I was originally from New York City. I came here upstate, very rural, small towns and stuff. And like 30 years ago. And right now I have friends from up here. And I have a number of liberal Democrat friends that are really racist because of their life experiences. It's like my best friend, he's a Democrat. Oh, he dislikes Trump. We're all in the same ballpark there. But he cannot give any leeway or whatever to African Americans. But the thing is, his past goes back to Attica in the 70s. What Attica was, prison.
Was he in prison?
He was in prison for 4 years. He was in prison for 4 years for marijuana. And so his views on blacks, it's not anti-racist. because he also, besides that, he did a lot of work in the late 70s in Baltimore and has his whole opinions on the African Americans that were there at the time that he was there, and destroyed a lot of properties and stuff like that. But honestly, the most jarring thing that happened to me was coming up here like in 1988, 89, 88, coming from New York. I don't think I heard the N word in like 2 decades from where I came from. You know, I worked in Manhattan, I worked in the World Trade Center, I worked for 2 banks. I came up here and they weren't even really racist people, but it was a whole different culture, a whole different attitude. You know, I went over at a neighbor's house to watch a football game, and he's watching football and goes, "Look at that N word go." I'm like, wow, they just blurted it out up here, you know. But yes, there are left liberal Democrats that are not anti-racist.
Yeah, there are. And I'm wondering, by the way, how many of them are going to be liberal after, like if they were touched by these riots. I mean, a lot of them are just being quiet because the power of the left and the power of cancel culture right now.
Oh, well, yeah, but here's the thing, you know, they see this and it's like the George, not the George Floyd, but the second murder, the
in Atlanta,
in the back 2 times.
Yeah.
I was over at his place today with another one of our friends, and he absolutely believes it was justified. You know, now I don't know what your opinion is, and I'm not here to debate that, but I felt exactly the opposite. I said, yes, he pointed a stun gun at you, so obviously the thing to do was to shoot him in the back. You know, because I think it's a generational thing too. You know, I was lucky. I feel I was lucky to grow up without any racial stuff in my family because my father, who died young when I was 8 years old, he worked at the Brooklyn Navy Yard with blacks, whites, everyone. And as I grew up with just from my mother, she made a point to not let any of that affect me. It's like if she had some people over from work and they said the N-word or whatever, she would say, there's none of that in this house, you know. But, you know, but I also grew up, even though I lived in a white neighborhood, I grew up around a lot. In the 4th grade, that's when busing started. So from the 4th grade on, I had black friends, you know, not from my neighborhood, but I had black friends. And later, through playing the guitar, playing music, all kinds of people, Puerto Rican, you know, and blacks, we all kind of found each other. But like you said, that's history. That's a long time ago.
You know, Thomas Sowell talked about, you know, back in the 40s and 50s, and I forget what, he was a musician, but he would often go up to Harlem. And even in the early 1960s, whites would often, you know, the song, what was it, the A Train or whatever to Manhattan to Harlem. I mean, like, what was that Duke Ellington song? Where he talks, was it the E Train? Was it the E Train or the A Train?
I think it was A Train because I think it went up to Birdland, 52nd Street.
But again, and it was about whites, you know, like the E Train or whatever was the train where whites would go up to Harlem. And there was a time when whites would regularly go up to Harlem, and whites would actually, in the 40s and the 50s and even into the 60s, except in the late 60s, there became a black militancy, which said, you know, whites are no longer allowed. And what ended up happening was there became integration, you know, and blacks, they started to move into areas. They also started to do diversity mapping, which brought a lot of black folks into to white areas. But they were very territorial and often very racist towards whites. And many of the fights that started oftentimes were initiated by the blacks in the neighborhood. And then it became and then it became black. And now that some whites are moving into Harlem, and they're moving into Bed-Stuy, and here in LA, which was white until the 70s, moving into Inglewood, they're saying, hey, you're gentrifying us. But what I feel is, so when I move in to a black neighborhood, it's gentrification. You know, I'm setting up the rents high and this and that. But when you move in, it's called diversity. So what I feel today is it's what's mine is, they're saying to me, what's mine is mine, but what yours, that's for everyone. And I don't like that. And I don't want to live in a country that thinks like that. I mean, I would prefer, almost, there's a part of me that would almost maybe even separate America and make it kind of like the way Europe is set up, like with the UN, we have just separate nation states, because to me, the kind of nation that the left would have, I don't see as good. And it seems like what these anti-racists want is kind of a sadomasochistic sort of relationship, and I'm really not down for it. And it's made me angry, and it's made me kind of lash out, because I've been around that for over 30 years. I've heard their doublespeak for years. And social media, particularly alternative media, was a place where people could really kind of go in on these people. And now that's been kind of taken away. A lot of people have been demonetized or absolutely kicked off YouTube. And it's they don't want to debate, they want to censor. And you know what, Wayne? Being a film buff and a news junkie, I find that extraordinarily distasteful and very dishonorable. And that has made me rather conservative. I'm not even a Christian, but I would rather live in a Christian, like a totally, ultra Christian place than a leftist place, because I see it as unfair and unjust. And I see it as a place that does not respect law and order and the rights of property and other things. As
far as what you just said, a lot of what your struggles are now are not mine. Mine came from some, integration stuff, mostly the Vietnam War. But hang on, I'm losing my point here. Oh, the Christian place. Like I said, I'm a lot older than you guys, and I've been through a lot of Christian stuff, a lot of churches, a lot of Bibles. And I find you say you'd rather live in this really Christian.
Yeah, as an atheist.
I'd rather needles in my eyes than fucking go there. They're the worst people I've ever met in my life. Because I relate Christians, this whole Christian place, to the church. And, it's a whole other story. I'm sorry I even blew up a little bit on that.
No problem. I'm just saying, right now, but you're not being censored. And I'm like, I want to, to me, there's more of a just and moral society.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I said this is your struggle. This is not mine now. My struggle, I and the people around me, our struggle maybe, I don't know if you can get this, is being a senior citizen in this world. We get shit on all the time. You know, I mean, how much shit have we ever? Well, it's another world, and plus, you know, I know what you're going through because I went through other things, other times for other reasons. But yeah, I just had to disagree with the Christian thing.
Well, I'll tell you something. You had the draft over your head, and
yeah, I was just talking about that today with two of my friends. How I was like the only person in my group of friends, and I'm talking like teenagers, that had they had a lottery to go to Vietnam. And I was the only guy that had a low number. And it took me I got out of the draft. I didn't want to go to Vietnam, you know, but it took me almost 2 years to get out.
yeah,
you were talking about the draft.
I just wish there was something in the middle, but right now all I see is the far left, and I see I'm in between two extremes here. I'm seeing between the far left and the ultra Christian left, and then there's me, and it's like, look, I want law and order, and I want a discussion to happen, and I'm not seeing that. And that's a scary thing. And I've had friends on Facebook, family on Facebook, who don't want to discuss the issue. They just want to put out platitudes and just all this stuff. And they don't want to discuss, and it bothers me. Like, wait a minute, we're human beings here. What's wrong with me having an opinion?
Yeah, well, I've lost your friends on Facebook, and here's one instance when and this was right after Trump was elected, and I'm talking to this is a couple. In fact, he was a member of a band that I was in, and his wife that I've known for 35 years. And, after he was elected and they were going to start cutting different, programs and different benefits and stuff, because I'm on Social Security and, Medicare and stuff. And I said, well, your guys, you already cut this and that from my, benefits and stuff. And his wife said, no, he doesn't mean you. And I said, what do you mean he doesn't mean me? He doesn't mean you people. What she meant was, somehow in her mind, she thought, well, they're not going to cut the white people's benefits. I said, what are you, fucking insane? I said, but it's everywhere. I mean, how racist is that? She just assumed, well, they're not going to cut any white people's stuff,
When did she say white people?
What? Sorry?
When did she say white people?
She didn't say white people, but she was inferring she doesn't mean you people.
Well, she also might have said, well, but how do you? That's an assumption, and she also might have meant seniors. Now that may be untrue.
No, because the whole thing was about seniors. So what she meant was she didn't mean the white people. She said it a number of times. She also had a job dealing with animal control and stuff. And she'd just go on and on about when she'd go to places where there was Muslims and blacks and, But that was just to illustrate all these times now. In the past 4 years, I've lost probably a dozen friends that were that probably at least a half a dozen were lifetime friends. And we've never even argued over anything. It's just been that they could not, and they unfriended me because they couldn't accept that I wasn't for Trump and all the stuff that's going on the right.
Well,
10, 15, 20 years younger than me, and they're fighting a different fight.
Well, like I said, I've been aware of the anti-racist left for over 30 years, since Tawana Brawley. And,
So,
you know,
geez, Reverend Al?
yeah. And like, look, I mean, he's there now, you know, and I mean, I got kind of like the white guilted when I saw, you know, the miniseries Roots. And then I, you know, like I start reading up on stuff. I realized that, you know, that whole book was plagiarized. And it's like,
when was Roots? Because
I don't know when the book was written. I know the mini.
Really watched it.
It's a compelling miniseries, but the miniseries came out in '77, and that, you know, that really started a lot of white guilt. But again, it was the first half of the film completely false. He wasn't captured by Europeans. He was captured. I mean, he was sold by. I mean, he was captured by. I mean, in reality, Africans were captured by other Africans. And I look, I don't want to sit there like how slavery came about. That's a long, you know, that was a long time ago.
Okay, but this was supposed to be a true story, or
It was, but it was not. There is no Kunta Kinte. It's a complete lie.
Yeah, well, no, it's fiction. It's not a lie. Yeah.
No, but okay.
Argue so much.
Well, Ali, no. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you why I think it's a lie, and you could be.
No, I believe you if you say it's a lie, but it's a lie if someone's trying to present it as fact. No.
Wayne, he put that out there as his family. It was an It was an autobiography of his family, and that portion was
okay.
untrue.
Well, that's what. Okay, that was my question. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a story.
No.
What year were you born?
What's that?
Right. What year were you born?
What year was I born?
Yeah.
I was born in 1969.
59? Okay.
69.
I know I look older, but I was born. Yeah, I'm only 50.
Oh, okay. No, I was just trying to get that as a form of reference from what you saw at what time. You know, that's all. I'm not debating any of this stuff. You know, it just Roots came on in my life, and I was just like, I didn't really care. I mean, if it came on, what did you say, 77, 79?
77. Now you know what one I really liked, and I watched it like late on television, was Rich Man Poor Man.
Yeah.
That was just a great miniseries. Actually, to a degree, I kind of like that when I look at it again more than Roots. But I enjoyed Roots. I also enjoyed Roots 2 that came out in 1979 with Henry. You know, it had Henry Fonda in it, Marlon Brando. It was a really decent piece, but there's a lot of dishonest people out there, and a lot of misinformation out there. And people don't.
Have a lot in common as far as like movies and stuff, non-political stuff. I love old movies on Facebook. I belong to so many movie groups, you know, the film noir and silent films, going over into like, you know, the talkies and stuff. You know, I'm a big fan of the like really early, you know, actresses like Clara Bow and stuff like that. I don't know. I guess at my age, I've started to mellow a lot.
Well, we do have this clip. Debbie wanted to play this clip really quick. Let's see what this is about. All the way home.
Tom Elder and Miss Wester throwing us into a panic. Land values don't have to go down. Not if the people in the community act like they believe in themselves. Here's an article reported in the New York Times which says that the official organization of home appraisal experts finds that land values actually have gone up in this type of situation. Oh, come on now, Ralph. You can do anything with figures, you know that. The important thing is we don't want anything like that to happen here. I've got 2 daughters, you know. What's the point, Ted? Well, I'd like the bank to get word around that... No, strike that out. I hope that you and the bank will reach a policy decision on real estate loans that will reassure the homeowners of this community, and the merchants, and the service companies. That's quite a package. Look, Ted, you know I don't make the decisions around here. I'll tell you what. I'll call downtown and see what they say. Well, if you're not on my side of the fence, at least sit on it, okay? We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, there's economic justice, and I'll get into the whole. There's a whole with the Community Reinvestment Act that tried to rectify that situation. I don't know how well they did, but again, that's also for a discussion. It's got to be a discussion and a debate about what best course of action to take. There's a part of me that believes, yeah.
I hope I added something to your show here.
You sure did.
Yes.
You know, okay, I'm just going to hang up now and hear the rest of your show. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for calling in, Mr.
I had a good
White.
time.
You're
Yeah,
awesome.
I like talking to you. Well, you know, we're all friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again, man. That was great. All right. So where you at here, Brian?
So, I think that almost about does it. I mean, I can get into some more details about kind of what I believe back in the day. You know, look, my father, when he was stationed in the Air Force, I think this was like 63. He had a black friend that he was studying with. I think it was like he was in Greenville, Mississippi, and you know, the treatment. And my father actually did not set foot in the South for like 30 years because of the treatment that he and his friend had. And there's a lot of detail to that. There's a lot of detail on like why I'm against pacifism. I'll go into that detail later, Joe. Is there anything else to add before we end the show?
Nope. Go ahead and subscribe though, everybody. And yeah, we see things from so far that you know, what can I do? I'm just going to keep speaking out on things I'm learning and things I'm looking into, and you know, the whole race thing is just a bizarre thing perpetuated by the media, and it's just gotten uglier with these stories that keep popping up in the news. So
Well,
interesting.
I want to put again, and she won't take it. She won't even probably won't. I tweeted the show. She won't look at it. But I want to, you know, like I said, I believe that ego is a big part of this, and people have become emotional and myopic on this issue, and they're not looking at things in a thorough manner, and that is dangerous. It makes me really frightened in this country. And like I said, I don't know if I want to live under it. And I see things going in not a very good direction. I am very frightened. And I don't know where to turn. But like you know, there are a lot of, you know, like I got friends that are like in Arizona and other parts of the country, and they kind of scare. I mean, they're on the conservative side. They kind of scare me a little bit even more. I mean, it's almost like there's going to be, and I hope not, but civil war. I'm seeing that there was I forget his name, but he predicted that there could be civil war because of the strife in this country and even bloodshed. And that is the last thing that I even want. But if you push somebody into a corner and you force them to live the way you want them to live in the country that their forefathers or their parents helped build, and you're going to try to make it your way without discussion, and if you're trying to motivate people on fear, fear and anger are closely related, and fear and hate are right around the corner. And you'll have people like, hey, they'll be coming at you like kamikaze pilots, and they won't care one way or the other. So you might want to think of that. People need to be rational. People need to strive to be fair. Fairness, I mean, it's, anger stems from the belief of unfairness. And this is where the rioting is coming from, but it's going to be also where the response to the rioting is going to come from. And there's going to be some viciousness there that I don't know if people are prepared for, because it's not just fighting, it's turning off the water, it's Teamsters not delivering to certain, to cities, it's starvation. I mean, it'll get nasty. And if you think that your side is just going to win and people are going to walk away, people would rather, like, there are people who are, some of these truck drivers have talked about, hey man, don't comply with them. Don't deliver to their cities. Make them starve. Anyway, Joe, that'll do it. Like and subscribe. And Courtney, I give you an olive branch. You're probably not going to take it. Hopefully some rational thought